Welcome to Frickety Frack. We do talk back. Thank you for joining me in this episode. My name's Patrick and I'm Frack. Frickety Frack, We Do Talk Back is a show where we discuss different aspects of fandom and how they connect to the gospel. So this is going to be my last episode on Bleach Thousand Year Blood War. And at the end of this episode, I will reveal which direction I'm going in after this. So what we do is we're going to be doing an episode of Bleach Thousand Year Blood War and connecting it to lessons of the Bible. And so the name of the show came from my dad, who dubbed my brother and me Frick and Frack since we were kids. So we're going to be going over the episode The Blade Is Me from Bleach Thousand Year Blood War. And so one of the things that I really loved about this episode is that it gives us a kind of a montage-ish, but also a little bit of character moments of the different captains going through retraining after the loss of their Bankai. So it's the three different captains that have lost their Bankais, Soifon, Hitsugaya, and Sojin. And so with that, we're getting those moments of them, retraining and how they feel a little bit about how it is now that they have lost their Bankais. And so, but the big thing that goes on in this episode is the final mystery behind Ichigo's powers have finally been fully revealed, because the previous episode they talked about how Ichigo is actually the culmination of three different spiritual powers. He is part Soul Reaper, he's part Quincy, and he's also part Hollow. And he gets the part Hollow from his mother. So they talk about that, but the big reveal is that the person who Ichigo thought was Zangetsu was in fact the manifestation of his Quincy powers. And so now that he fully understands who Zangetsu is, and that helps him reforge his Zanpakuto. And that's one of the interesting things, that the one who seemed to be helping him the most was in fact his Quincy powers, and that the crazy kind of homicidal one, especially when he first met him, was in fact his Soul Reaper power. So that was always kind of interesting, and an interesting dynamic how that works. And so that's the big thing that happens in this episode is Ichigo getting his Zanpakuto reforged, and that I'm going to have the image up here, and that he has in fact two Zanpakutos, but it's a lot like the other characters who their Zanpakuto is double. Shunsui is of that type, but also Ukitake, when he releases his Shikai, it becomes two swords. And so that's just kind of interesting with that. And so, but the big, as I said, the big focus of this episode is Zangetsu being reforged. And that ties into my biblical theme. And so the biblical theme for me is 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5. And this is what it says. I am reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now I'm sure dwells in you as well. So this is a letter from Paul to Timothy, and Timothy is one of Paul's go-to guys when he needed someone to either deliver a message for him or to go into a church to kind of fix things. And so Timothy and Paul were really close. And so that's one of those things that I really love about the relationship. I spent a lot of time studying 1st and 2nd Timothy a lot when I first started in ministry, because I was a young clergy, and it really kind of helped me, feel better and give me guidelines on what it means to be a pastor. And so this reminded me a lot of Zangetsu's relationship with Ichigo, because one of the things that Zangetsu talks about is that he is very proud of Ichigo's growth as a Soul Reaper. And so he, he's impressed by his power, he's impressed by his growth, and so. But one of the things that I found interesting was that Zangetsu, kind of talks about, it's like, because I'm a manifestation of your Quincy powers, and I had to think about that I might have had to kill you. And of course that, it's not really explained why Zangetsu, as his Quincy powers, would think he might have to kill Ichigo, especially since he spent so much time helping him grow. When Ichigo needed help, his hollow powers would help him. But when he was in really desperate straits, especially like the first time he fought Kenpachi, Zangetsu actually did help. And so it was always interesting that, now Zangetsu talks about he had to potentially have to kill Ichigo if he decided to become a Soul Reaper. And it actually made me think of the relationship between Dumbledore and Harry Potter. When Professor Dumbledore reveals his master plan and everything that's going on to Severus, and Severus then reveals everything he talked about with Dumbledore to Harry, kind of made me think about that. It was like, Dumbledore raised Harry basically to sacrifice him to defeat Voldemort. And so it's one of those interesting things. And so it seemed very similar. That it was like, you keep helping him get stronger. And so then when Zangetsu says at the end, he's like, I'm very proud of how strong you have become. And then when Ichigo gets Zangetsu back, his Zanpakuto, he tells him, he's like, both of you, White Ichigo, as he's often referred to, and Zangetsu, he's like, you are both Zangetsu, and you have both never lied to me. You are both Zangetsu. And so when the reveal of Zangetsu's true form is in fact two swords, really makes sense, because he is Soul Reaper and he is Quincy. And so for us as Christians, I think something that we forget to do is to tell people that we're grateful for them. And so I want to encourage you this week that after you watch this video, find the people who have meant something to you. If they were mentors, someone who showed you the faith and walked through the faith, let them know that how much that meant to you, that you took that time. But also, if you're mentoring someone, or if you're putting time and effort into someone's faith, let them know just how proud of you are of them and their growth. So I would encourage you to do that this week. So how would I rate this episode? Well, there's not really a lot of action. There's some funny moments with in the Huden and the forge for the Zanpakuto, but it's also kind of, but it's so story driven. But the mystery behind Ichigo, now there's going to be more stuff coming out about Ichigo and his powers and everything, but it's just great, and it's great touching moments. And I'm also a sap for proud teacher moments, proud dad moments, those kind of moments where, a coach or someone like that says how proud they are of how someone's grown. Like I'm a big sap and sucker for those kind of things. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So I'm going to rate this episode a 5, perfect 5, because the moments are so great, despite the fact that there's not really any action, except for really in flashbacks. But it's such a poignant episode, and it has a great moment with it in this episode for fans of Bleach. And of course, and then also we can't leave out the fact that it's now been revealed that Uryu is now a member of the Vandenreich, and so we don't know about why he made that decision. So we'll find out more when the next season comes out of 1,000-Year Blood War. So, all right. So now I'm gonna reveal what series I'm going to be covering next. Now it could be comic books, could be anime, another anime series, could be manga. So here we go. Drum roll. And so the next series I'm going to be covering is The Mandalorian, seasons 1 and 2, and hopefully I will be done with seasons 1 and 2 by the time season 3 comes out, and so I'll start covering season 3 as the episodes come out. So I'm looking forward to that. The Mandalorian is great. It's one of my favorite Star Wars properties. I look forward to watching it again and discussing with you guys. All right, so anyone with questions for me about the biblical lesson that I talked about today, or any other discussion ranging from anime, comics, or anything in general, feel free to email me at fricketyfracktalkback@gmail.com, or reach out to me on Twitter at fricketyf, or at fricketyfrack on Instagram and Facebook. So please rate, review, and subscribe. Remember that I love you, most importantly that God loves you, and so go release your Bankai.